When I shall be dead, the principles of which I am composed will still perform their part in the universe, and will be equally useful in the grand fabric as when they compose this individual creature. The difference to the whole will be no greater betwixt my being in a chamber and in the open air. The one change is of more importance to me than the other, but not more so to the universe. He is happy whose circumstances suit his temper, but he is more excellent who can suit his temper to his circumstance. Beauty is no quality in things themselves. It exists merely in the mind which contemplates them, and each mind perceives a different beauty. One person may even perceive deformity, where another is sensible beauty, and each individual ought to acquiesce in his own sentiment without pretending to regulate those of others. To seek the real beauty or real deformity is as fruitless an inquiry as to pretend to ascertain the real sweet or real bitter. Be a philosopher, but amidst all of your philosophy, be still a man. Heaven and hell suppose two distinct species of men, the good and the bad, but the greatest part of mankind float between vice and virtue. Men's view of things are the result of their understanding alone. Their conduct is regulated by their understanding, their temper, and their passions. The identity that we ascribe to things is only a fictitious one, established by the mind, not a peculiar nature belonging to what we're talking about. Generally speaking, the errors in religion are dangerous, those in philosophy only ridiculous. When men are most sure and arrogant, they are commonly most mistaken, giving views to passion, without that proper deliberation which alone can secure them from the grossest absurdities. Epicurus's old questions are still unanswered. Is he, God, willing to prevent evil but not able? Then he is impotent. Is he able but not willing? Then he is malevolent. Is he both able and willing? Then why evil? If we take in our hand any volume of divinity or school metaphysics, for instance, let us ask, does it contain any abstract reasoning concerning quantity or number? No. Does it contain any experimental reasoning concerning matter of fact and existence? No. Commit it then to flames, for it can contain nothing but sophistry and illusion. I may venture to affirm of the rest of mankind that they are nothing but a bundle or collection of different perceptions, which succeed each other with an inconceivable rapidity, and are in perpetual flex and movement. The sweetest and most inoffensive path of life leads through the avenues of science and learning, and whoever can either remove any obstructions in this way, or open up any new prospect, ought so far to be esteemed a benefactor to mankind. It is an absurdity to believe that the deity has human passions, and one of the lowest of human passions, a restless appetite for applause. And while the body is confined to one planet, along which it creeps with pain and difficulty, the thought can in an instant transport us to the most distant regions of the universe, or even beyond the universe, into the unbound chaos, where nature is supposed to lie in total confusion. What never was seen or heard, or may yet be conceived, not is anything beyond the power of thought, except what implies an absolute contradiction. All sentiment is right, because sentiment has a reference to nothing beyond itself, and is always real, wherever a man is conscious of it. But all determinations of the understanding are not right, because they have a reference to something beyond themselves, to wit, real matter of fact, and are not always conformable to that standard. In our reasonings concerning matter of fact, there are all imaginable degrees of assurance, from the highest certainty to the lowest species of moral evidence. A wise man, therefore, proportions his belief to the evidence. Does a man of sense run after every silly tale of hobgoblins or fairies, and canvass particularly the evidence? I never knew anyone that examined and deliberated about nonsense who did not believe it before the end of his inquiries. We make allowance for a certain degree of selfishness in men, because we know it to be inseparable from human nature and inherent in our frame and constitution. By this reflection we correct those sentiments of blame, which so naturally arise upon any opposition. Nothing appears more surprising to those who consider human affairs with a philosophical eye than the easiness with which the many are governed by the few, and the implicit submission which men resign their own sentiments and passions to those of their rulers. When we inquire by what means this wonder is effected, we shall find that as force is always on the side of the governed, the governors have nothing to support them but opinion. It is therefore on opinion only that government is founded, and this maxim extends to the most despotic and most military governments, as well as to the most free and most popular. The Soldan of Egypt or the Emperor of Rome might drive his harmless subjects like brute beasts against their sentiments and inclination, but he must at least have led his Mamelukes or Praetorian bands like men by their opinion. For my part, when I enter most intimately into what I call myself, I always stumble onto some particular perception or other, of heat or cold, light or shade, love or hatred, pain or pleasure. I never can catch myself at any time without a perception, and never can observe anything but the perception. If anyone, upon serious and unprejudiced reflection, thinks he has a different notion of himself, I must confess I can reason no longer with him. All I can allow him is that he may be in the right as well as I, and that we are essentially different in this particular. He may perhaps perceive something simple and continued which he calls himself, though I am certain there is no such principle in me.